Our podcast series, Welcome to the Future, starts now.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Welcome to the Future. On today's episode, we have a few new familiar faces, but they are not strangers to the business or the brand. First, I want to start off with my guest co-host today. She serves in our marketing department, and she's also the executive assistant to our CEO, Mr. Brett Stevens. Give it up for Mrs. Taylor Hyman. Nice. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you in sitting with us. She's super smart, super driven, super talented, and it's a joy to have her a part of the team. She heads out our marketing team with another young lady that also assists with our production efforts that you see, and her name is Hannah Scott, who just celebrated a wedding this past weekend, so let's clap it up for that. Yeah. Give a little love for the love. Without further ado, I also have to get into our special guest for this episode, Mr. Jason Harris of Jerome Baker Glassblowing. How are you, sir?
Wonderful. Thanks for having us today.
Thank you. Also to my left, I have Mr. Adam.
Mr. Jordan Schefter.
Jordan. Why did I write down Adam?
That's his brother.
Adam, because while you were saying that. Got it. We're going to keep some of that, by the way, if not this whole thing. But we have Jordan sitting in with us. If you watch ESPN,
welcome.
Adam Scheffner is his brother. So he is sitting in with us, and he'll be joining the convo and getting things moving. So
thanks for having me.
Thank you as well. I know it's kind of like podcast. I'm up here now, so let's go. All right, man. Before we get started, how did you get into the glass blowing industry? What was your introduction to all of that?
When I was in college, I was an art major and just really liked process-oriented arts. And I met an old man down the street, and his name's Bob Snodgrass. And Bob was somebody who had innovated glass pipes and made a pipe that seemed to change color the more you used it. And Bob's whole magic of the creation was this really cool pipe, and the people that surrounded him were, really interesting folks from Oregon that I wanted to be part of that circle. And so I just got into the glass blowing through him.
What was the process of you perfecting your craft to actually launching a business? How did you go from inspiration into glass blowing from Bob, then you building it out and scaling it into what we see today?
Sure. Well, where I started, man, was when we were going along, the Grateful Dead was my passion. So we would follow along the Grateful Dead as many shows as we could a year and blow glass in wherever we could and sell it on the parking lot. And then lo and behold, when Jerry died, we named the company after him, Jerome, and then Baker is getting baked. And we started to make a corporation and scale it up. We created packaging for the bongs at that point and went from, a $350,000 business to $1 million business in the early 90s, in I guess mid 90s, 95, 96. And by 99, scaled it out to, $4 million a year in sales and 70 employees. And we had a big picture show going on up in Eugene, Oregon. And, the scale happened through one being the only game in town. When we started the business, we were making bongs that people just didn't, recognize as true pieces of artwork. But we held true to what we were doing. And Jordan here, my partner, we started it in college together, in a dorm room. And, we would go door to door to frat houses, bang on the doors when there's a party going on with a bag full of bongs and try to sell them, and just start scaling out. Jordan goes door to door. We had a $125 wholesale bong that people were freaking out. Like, how can I pay that much for a bong?
Yeah.
But nowadays, we have collectors groups on Facebook, Jerome Baker's, connoisseurs and collectors, and they sell a lot of the second market and third market Jerome Baker art. And from stuff way back then, it's gone up to 20 times in value. So, in this day and age, we're here in Las Vegas. We have a small factory here. We have, limited production. It's all hand done, handmade right here in Las Vegas. And it's kind of like, for the general public, it's an opportunity to get a really cool piece of artwork that is all handmade by this kind of, thing that's happening in our, day and age. It's not just me pen to paper on this thing. There's a team of us that make it, and the magic happens in that creation. So yeah, that's kind of the long story about how we got from zero to hero.
All for the love of weed.
Right.
All for the love of weed,
of course.
It's a respect for the plant. It's a respect for the culture.
Yeah.
We're not really here selling iPhones. We're selling individual handmade items that, the bong itself is more than just an object that we look at. It's something that when we use, it creates some tradition in our life, some ritual in our life that as Americans, kind of, it seems like there's a lot of lost people out there. No religion, no real good upbringing. And this is something for them to attach onto, whether it's somebody that needs that go-to, I'm going to clean all my little tools and I'm going to get it all ready and I'm going to do my dab or my bong hit and clean the bong out, put it away, do the thing. And they do that a couple times a day. And it's kind of a ritual-ish thing. And when they smoke it, they get inspired to do hopefully good things or change the world in a positive way, or something like this. I've heard Seth Rogen compare it to, putting Bengay on a sore joint. It's kind of the same thing for your brain and your reality of the day. And so we contribute to that by making these really cool kind of sacramental pieces, and I have a lot of people that come up to us and, blessed. I've been in the space this long. We started it back in 1991 and just moving and shaking and developed till now. And I have a lot of people that come up to me and say, hey man, that's the first bong I ever used.
Right.
And so for me, a lot of us that are in the space, I don't know, like boys might be different than girls. Because my first, and I talk to a lot of people, it's you turn 18, your first big purchase, okay? You go to the head shop. And you're going to buy a bong that you're going to name it. You're going to bring it and hide it from your parents. You're going to get it in somebody's car.
I kind of did that.
Yeah, she was smiling like, I think this might be a little
Everybody had a name for their bong. And then it goes on for a certain amount of time. And then it gets broken or taken or confiscated or something like this. And I always say good bongs go to heaven. But this is the story that we get. And now in this world that we live in, this legalized cannabis world, a lot of guys our age are saying, hey, I own, the dispensary, I own the distro, I own the lighting company. And that's the first bong I ever used. And for Jordan and I, we think to ourselves, wow, we got in that kid's head. Right. You know what I mean? And we helped contribute to creating this huge space that we have by defending the culture. Right. And so to now that we're in this big space, I think that's what we represent is still the ante. Yeah. It's still the gray area. Yeah. It's still the not so mainstream. So it's a really cool piece of culture.
It's also art. From my understanding, you actually made a spear of consciousness for the Dalai Lama. We
did. We got to make the Dalai Lama a piece. That was one of the highlights of my career, and get to go and present it to him. Yeah, and it wasn't smokable, of course.
Art.
It's artwork. Yeah, and just like this as an object, it is art. And for me as an artist, it's always been the push and pull of is it art or is it craft? Right. Can you use it? Can you not? What is the definition of that? And I'm cool with it. That still puts it on the gray area. Right. And for us as pipe makers in general, as glass artists, just that glass blowing culture alone as a tiny segment of an art population kind of distinguishes us still as the pipe makers, and so that's just how it is, and it's like the spray painters to art as the gallery looks at them. So we have to just defend our culture and run with it, and I think that's the magic behind it also.
And a reliable product. I know your process is so different from a lot of people's out there.
Yeah. The process that we use was developed back in Eugene, Oregon when we started doing the pieces, and it's just specifically for smoking. When I met Jordan, he had a graphics bong. The old one with a vinyl with a soup can on the bottom of it, and it had like a metal bowl that you could snap a one hit of pot out of. And for us, that's what we designed this hit after, is you break a little bit of cannabis up, small, tiny hits, you light the whole thing, and you suck it through the hole. That way you've gotten rid of all the ash, and then you pull the carb and get your hit. And that's what we developed this piece for. People might use it other ways, which is totally doable, but that's why we use a grommet system instead of a ground joint system. That's the difference between us. People might call it old school, but I can tell you when you hit the piece, you understand it. And, for me, it's not like I'm smoking bong hits all day long. It might be certain times of the day that I want to smoke a bong hit, at nighttime or something like that. So, that's just it. There was one point when Jordan and I moved to Amsterdam back in the early 90s and set up our glass shop. Thought we were big pimps. We were going to sell bongs to all these Dutch guys. We pull up to the bar and, smoke a bong hit, and everybody's like, whoa, dude. It would be like somebody just doing shot after shot of alcohol at our bar.
Yeah, like a culture shot.
And they're like, we don't do that shit. We roll a little bit with some tobacco.
And we
smoke joints, bro. Get that shit out of here.
We also don't have any hardware to bring with us.
Yeah. So we flipped it. We made marbles, trippy marbles. Because then we can get conversations going with people at the tables and sell them some marbles and make it through. So, we pivoted a little bit there.
So I have questions on it. We made notes for this, right? You have clients like George Clooney, Adam Sandler, Phil Lesh from Grateful Dead, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah. When you started out, after following Bob, did you see a future that you have now in cannabis and just overall as a business owner? Did you see that future?
So what I saw in my world were like little bands that might grow to be big bands. Right, so from a club to a theater to a stadium. Right. And so I could see the reality of how you can kind of break through as an artist. And scalability is a big thing. If I sat by myself in a garage and made X amount of pieces, sure, I could do that and make a living or whatever. But I think that I took a role from there's a great artist right now called Dale Chihuly. And Dale scaled out on a bigger level where you can have a lot of artists working under one brand, and that's why we decided to name it something else. And we work for this something else that kind of we can all group up underneath and make lots of pieces. In terms of celebrities and making celebrity pieces, a lot of this is, there's people that want to give others gifts for birthday presents or this and that, and these are the ultimate things. So if we can, make them for somebody like that, that's a great, entry. Other people order pieces for parties that they might be having to make like a big splash at the party. It's a great conversation piece, and it's great for people to be using around. So there's just been a lot of ways in the door. My standard MO is to pull up backstage at whatever concert we're at and have a few bongs in the backpack, banging on whatever door gets opened and figuring out who smokes weed and get in the show. Right. And we've, that's Tom Araya from Slayer. We know Jay Lane, the drummer from Primus. Wow. We have a lot of really System good friends. Shavo from System. He's got a lot of bongs. Be Real. Wow. Deftones, Stefan from the Deftones.
Didn't you mention Snoop earlier, Jordan?
Yeah, we just did Snoop's birthday piece this last birthday that just came through. Nice. And it had the doggy style on it. It was really, really detailed. It took hours of work when they sent the driver over birthday day and shot it back to LA. It was a lot of fun. But
sidebar, Snoop, we want to see you here at the podcast. Come see about Nephew. We have some weed here waiting for you. We'll make sure we take good care of you. Had to do that shameless plug. That was a really cool story, though. Doggy style is that's a stamping culture for sure. So it goes back to art. Even to contribute something to that is crazy.
I'll tell you, with Snoop, it was back before 2000 that he was playing in Portland, and we had a connection in the group, and it was during one of his shows, and it was at the Roseland or something. And so we go into the backstage area, and we had with us this little guy from New York that he brought this New York diesel with him. And so we were all hanging out backstage, and the whole Snoop crew's there. We're smoking, having a good time. And then Snoop's like, okay, everybody out. And my little bro from New York says, we're not going nowhere. Just hang out. You're quiet. And so at the end, there's probably 8 people hanging around, and then everybody's holding hands, and we're holding hands with Snoop's family. He does the big prayer, and then we all walk out together, and he goes right on the stage. And so at that point, it's just me and my boy, and we're on the back of the stage rolling, and he's rolling the diesel. Right. And Snoop's rapping, and he comes back, and we take a couple hits every once in a while and go back and keep rapping. And I had a camera, and I'm taking pictures of Snoop from behind, and all my friends are right in the front looking at us like, what the fuck?
Like, how are you up there?
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, man. It was a really good time.
It's a conversation topic. I mean, it goes back to a couple episodes a while ago last season. We had Brooke Burkstaller, and we talked about humanizing the stoner by making it a part of everyday consciousness and conversation. And I think earlier when you said giving a bong to someone as a gift, even if it's not functional, it's still a conversation topic, but it's still art. Yeah. And it still provokes a thought, and it still humanizes what is once, deemed, like we just mentioned, which we'll get into with your association with Mr. Chong, but that's what people think of. They think negative. They think of the stereotype that comes along with paraphernalia. So to change that conversation by adding art and technique and methodology to it, which a lot of the experts, that's how they're experts in their fields, is by developing their own method to perfecting their product. And how did you do that? Obviously, these are highly strong, durable. What was that process like of finding the perfect technique?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So one thing I can relate it to right now, is shoes, sneakers. You're addicted. You go into Nike, and there's something about that one pair that fits you right, or it feels right, it looks right, and you want to wear it out. The bongs have become kind of that kind of thing. It's something that is, it's kind of your style,
Okay.
especially if you're going to travel with it and have your, Louis Vuitton backpack. You put your bong in there. You show up at the party. Maybe it matches your shoes. Maybe it has Tweety Bird on there, and it's your vibe.
Right.
You want to be talking about that thing.
Yeah.
That's one way that we create a takeaway. I call it hillbilly to hip hop. That's what our genre is. So it's the whole swath. And reality is in our studio over here at the Las Vegas Dream Factory in the Arts District, we have a display set up. And it's, to me, something like Harry Potter's wand shop might look, where when you walk in there, that wand picks you. Same thing happens with these bongs. It's like, wow, I just, I had to have, and sometimes I'll ask myself, wow, I could never smoke out of that thing. Right. But we also try a lot of different designs, and it's appealing to a lot of different people. So
how do you pick, well, also too, sorry to interrupt, how do you pick designs? You were saying also people, the designs call people. How do you find whatever creativity to make stuff to speak to people?
So we have standard designs that I've used for the whole time, 30 years. And we kind of modify that a little bit here and there, but we stick with a couple of those key core designs. Over time, sometimes we'll tell the guys, hey, let's make some samples like this, and I'll throw it like a curve. Like, hey, if they work and people like it, then we might make some of those for a little while. Again, everything is hand done. So even the swag that we do, the lunch boxes or the mats or the t-shirts, we run X amount and we don't ever run it again. So we kind of go through time. Jordan and I, a big hobby for us as kids was to go to Green Street in Soho and go to Foot Soldier, a bathing ape. And that was when those guys were hot, and we'd go in there and buy shoes and buy this and buy that. And that was kind of an influence on how to create vibe and marketing through what our artwork is. Coming down to the Dream Factory right now, if I'm only alive, 20 more years or whatever it is, if the artist is there, or if our company is only around, and we learned this because we got arrested, and I could tell you a little bit about that story, but things only last for so long. You know this from relationships you've had in your life. And so at that point, it's time right now that you can come down and buy these pieces or get them, access them online, and be able to get that.
Right.
And when it's done, it's done. And then you only have those pieces. It might be like going down and buying a soup can from Andy Warhol, or a Basquet from him when he's on this corner. Hey, I want to buy the piece. You know what I mean? $10, man. You know what I mean? Now you're 400 million in fucking. You know what I mean?
There's more value to it, right? There's 1 in a million.
That's the idea here, is to leave legacy through the brand, create really cool artwork, and if it was an NFT, a lot of these great stories that we have ends with a broken bong. So there's only X amount left after X amount break in the world, right? So it's that. I call it the beauty is in the fragility.
Right. Well, first I want to ask, I know Taylor and I are kind of, obviously we're younger, in the game of cannabis, and we're coming up in our roles and what we offer to the industry. But I think for us, even seeing the narrative of how bongs have changed, and even just paraphernalia and accessories to cannabis.
Absolutely.
It's, it can be deemed like, oh, that's another trinket. And then they're kind of side-eyeing you like, all right, I hear the glass clinking, But then when you're in this space and you meet people like you, where you have a story and there's a reason why and how it affects people, and people finding you do develop a relationship with this. If this is your medicine for the day, you look forward to coming home, touching the bong, playing your favorite song. It creates a little ritual and a safe space for you. So I think for us to see the change and the growth of the narrative is pretty impressive, and your work is a part of that.
For us too, it's about kind of having a long-term mission, even if it was unspoken in the beginning of our path. At this point now, we know what we're making. There's a lot of trinkets, a lot of really cool vapes and cartridges and this and that, and things that we would like to make too. And we're like, well, why didn't we, or why don't we do, or whatever like this? But reality is, if we stick to our mission, I look at, bands, back to bands, and I would say the Beastie Boys play Beastie Boys shit. David Bowie played David Bowie shit. Yeah, he was, you can veer a little bit and try some newer and mix a little bit and have a little bit of that. And that's kind of what we've done with what we make all this time. We've gone in, dab rigs. This shit wasn't around before 2011. There was no real, like dabbing going on. And when it all popped, it was a whole second wind for our industry. So of course we're going to make dab rigs and, fine tune what we do and kind of modify with the times for sure.
Well, Taylor, what was your first time coming into knowing Jerome Baker? When did you find out about him?
Well, I would say when I I've always seen your work, incredible work all over. You've been around for a very long time, but I would say really getting to understand your background would be when we presented the Fohse Lifetime Achievement Award to Tommy Chong.
Yeah.
And we heard his story. And then I started looking into Operation Pipe Dreams.
Yeah.
And pretty crazy what you went through, 20 years ago in 2003.
Yeah. We, like I said, we built the company from 91, and by 99 we were rocking and rolling. And then in 2003, February 23rd to be exact, we got arrested with 55 other people. One of them was Tommy Chong, and it was in a thing called Operation Pipe Dreams. And it was a 2-year investigation into the paraphernalia industry.
Was it prior to getting arrested, or within that 2 years that was
prior to getting arrested? They had a huge
just making sure that it was 2 years and then they attacked.
2 years and then they attacked. And the red flags in those 2 years were, people going through the garbage cans and people following us and us kind of seeing those red flags. But anyway,
you actually saw the red flags while it was happening.
Looking back, of course, yeah. And at one point, I tried to hire a lawyer and say, "Hey, there's shit going on, and I want you to find out about it." And he's like, it's like chasing a rabbit down a hole.
You didn't do a PI either?
This was a month before I was arrested.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where you don't want to believe it.
You had a business one day, and then you didn't.
I had 70 employees, and so it shuts down and.
Immediately, right?
Yeah, and they brought us all to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania during all this, and that was the federal rap. And, out of all of us, Tommy did the whole year in federal pen. And during his year inside, his cellmate was this guy, Jordan, such and such, who they ended up making the Wolf of Wall Street movie after that. So, he got some really fun, play out of it. And, he didn't deserve to do the year in jail for sure. He was the only one out of everybody. So, everybody got slapped around, and they used the justice system to make a political statement. And nowadays, kind of times are changed for sure. The industry, the space has changed, but the law is still the exact same. On a federal level, it's illegal in cannabis right now, and we as Americans should be really pushing in these next elections to kind of really force this thing to the front right now and get it done and descheduled and fully off to the races with on a national level on banking and everything else. We've had a really good run here in Las Vegas. The city's been great with us. We've made some really good friends within the city, and especially the arts district where we sit. We're right across from the innovation zone. The city's just gotten a lot of money to do upgrades down there, and we have the English Hotel down the street. We have a really, really cool little fun space down there, and we're stoked that you guys are in town. I met Big Ben a while back, and I told him how badass your lighting company is.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
So in my opinion, there's a peloton. I look at these things like pelotons, even in our pipe world. There's a few guys up at the front,
right,
and everybody else is drafting, and the thing changes. It never stays the same. And you guys are up there at the front of the peloton on this thing for sure right now. The way the technique is and the technology and the whole team around here, it's just pretty mind-opening, and you guys have a real solid grasp on the cannabis industry. And those award shows, the award show that we met at, that was great. Tommy deserved that Lifetime Achievement Award. You guys had some really important people there. That was really impressive. And it was great to be with Tommy and sit at his table with him and his family, Shelby and Paris, and just really he's been the best. He's been really helpful for us in terms of my brand, because we got arrested together. He definitely shows me a lot of love. We're working on a really cool project with him right now. Not only do we do the Chong Bong for him, we work with Cheech and Chong Global. And those guys are doing some really cool things with the takeout. That's their new show they're doing, where they're going to be delivering to people's houses. So Cheech and Chong show up.
Love that.
And on another level, we just did a TV show that's on Altered TV right now, altrd.tv. And it's all about a competition of glass pipe making. So we brought 12 glass pipe makers to Las Vegas, and we did them sets of 3 on 3 on 3. One winner goes home with the $10,000 in cash. and a custom leather jacket from West Coast Leathers.
Love that.
And yeah, it's really cool. It's called Operation Pipe Dreamers. You can just type it into Roku or any of these other apps.
Right.
Total play on words.
Total play.
Like,
It's super,
And so that was
really good.
where we started, you know,
Yeah.
and that was where all this thing went chaotic, and we felt like we wanted to bring it to light right now and kind of show people what's going on and show people this underworld culture of glass pipe makers. Which you know, there's bongs selling for over $100,000 regularly right now.
Right.
So there's a lot of energy in the space, and it represents an art that connects to this plant culture that we all are part of. So it's really been fun for sure.
Is there any separation or division amongst the glass blowing community because you participate in cannabis glass blowing? Like how does that relationship correlate between the two?
Yeah, you know, the glass blowing community in and of itself is kind of like a tribe amongst artists. And we have, you know, several places around the world that are like the epicenters for this.
Yeah.
Murano, Italy, you know, Seattle, Washington, amongst others. And in those places, the art world does not necessarily take us, you know, seriously.
Right.
We've spent a long, hard road breaking into the space, and for me, you know, it's all about the Pilchuck Glass School, and that's a place in Washington State where all the greatest artists in the world kind of go for lessons and congregate once a year. And they're now bringing on more and more pipe makers and things like this, so they're giving the space resonance.
He got thrown out for making a pipe.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. This is in 1995.
Wow.
So now things have changed, and there's
Like you.
yeah,
Outta
there's
here.
a little resonance in the
It
space.
was a fun piece. It was a fun
Yeah, it was
piece.
a fun
He cut
piece.
it up.
Yeah.
It was sand polish. I remember cut it.
Did they destroy it when they kicked you out, or did you get to keep it?
I got to keep it, of course.
there you go.
Yeah. No. I don't have
Okay.
much.
And
When I
everybody-
was arrested, everything was gone at
Really?
that point. So
Okay.
the police came and took everything. It was a whole reset. You have to imagine a company at that level that there was no internet
Right.
that was real. If you go on archive.org, you could see our websites back then. But at that point, there was no real hardcore internet or social media. And so we got all our computers confiscated. So that was all of our digital pictures. And then whatever was in the space got confiscated, including glass, pictures, records, everything else. So to get back broken computers and all the shit, I had nothing. I had one camera that had a disc in it that I have that as my we call it pre-op. Anything pre-operation pipe dream is pre-op. That's including all the artwork and things that were made. It's
So
that.
That's
brutal.
crazy.
It's
And so
so
I had this
brutal.
one thing of pictures, and that's kind of what I have
Crazy.
from back then, besides what other people have shared. But also another really interesting thing was I got my website confiscated by the federal government. It was jeromebaker.com. And back in 2000, maybe 10 or something, I found it on an auction for $800 and bought it back. So
auction's
my
wrong.
It's funny, and it
actual
was like, here, it's
IP that was confiscated that I got back. What does it mean? It's a lot to me.
Oh, for sure, yeah,
And so it was a real interesting, you know, play on the whole thing. And when it got confiscated, it was real new. The internet started in 1996. We had a website on, you know what I mean? And so we kind of started going this and that. And that's, you know, in 2003, it was new to confiscate websites and things like that. They did it for porn, but not really us.
So looking at all of these things, you started again inspired by Bob. You launched Jerome Baker. You established a name by working for something bigger than everybody, for everyone to grab a hold to and work towards.
Sure.
You launched that. End up getting in some legal trouble. You have all the celebrity clients still on your heels at this time. You're in with Mr. Tommy Chong. Did you ever see that all of that work would result into today?
What I knew that in 1996, I had my medical marijuana license in Oregon. And I knew that if this thing did go legal, that's our big chance to make a big push.
Right.
Until then, we had to stay underground. So in 2012 was the first year of legalization in Colorado. We smoked weed at the Cannabis Cup and said, this is it. The Amsterdam boys are back here in Colorado getting paid to set up grows. This is a traction now. This is a grip in. And so at that point, Jordan and I made a decision to go ahead and move to Vegas when Vegas came legal. a few years later and get a building here and really make a play with this national legalization campaign. So the only way I saw it was with legalization, and now with legalization that's happening, I see it as a massive play. I see that ancillary products in cannabis represent a $10 billion industry last year, and we represent a small segment of that industry. Our business, just in the name alone, is well recognized in the cannabis space, and we feel really strong that we have a solid brand. That we've sold a lot of cannabis, doing licensing deals these past few years, a lot of hemp doing licensing deals, CBDs and things like that. It represents quality in the space, so that's kind of where we're going with our whole motivation here, is to have kind of a bigger play on a level that we represent a certain level of quality and culture in the space.
Brand recognition and brand, I call it like brand responsibility, because if we go back to the Lifetime Achievement Awards, the Fohse Lifetime Achievement Award that we gave Mr. Chong, it was great that you offered each honoree, along with Mr. Chong, a bong of their own, because it has a story attached to it. You know, and although they may not know the full detail, it still goes back to the emphasis of art, because you're holding a piece of history, 20, 30 years of trials, tribulations, victories, like all the things that represent where we are now. So it's like to have that and give that to people who are actively impacting the cannabis industry is great too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
it's
great
fun.
work.
It's again, even if you don't smoke, you can have it at the house.
Yeah.
It's a talking point. It's a conversation
Can't
piece.
stop talking
flowers
about
in
this
it?
one.
Yeah. Bob taught me back then that that we're basically like a human 3D printer. This thing's coming out of some integrity inside, and when you're making it pops out. And it's when the mothership lands, the key to the spaceship. It fits right in the keyhole and lets you in. So.
Right.
That's kind of where it all came from, and there's a magic behind it, man. That's the bottom line. There's something more to it than just an object or a piece or something like this.
All bongs go to
And
heaven.
I still remember the first
love that
pipe. I still remember the first pipe brought back to the dorm.
Really? What was your experience as an onlooker? Because this is super cool to think about. As an onlooker watching all of this happen, what was your experience? Were you not offended, but were you like embarrassed a little bit, or were you like riding for your buddy? Like, no, I'm sticking with it.
Well, just to watch the whole industry go was interesting. Where we started, what we did for the industry, and where it is today is pretty cool to see.
The industry he's talking about is this pipe, bong, rolling paper industry. So we were at the first trade show here in America, at the Champs trade show. And we got 8 booths there and closed them all in so nobody can see inside of our booth, so they couldn't take our idea. It was that kind of a thing back then. There was no internet, no sharing of this skill. We didn't want anybody knowing how to blow glass, especially knowing our techniques and things like that. So it was real hush-hush. And going from that to a 1,600 booth, trade show at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And if we're doing numbers on the business, it's scaled out, dramatically. And especially with cannabis legalization now, as it becomes more and more accepted and prevalent, then, obviously there's more sales and more, scale in this thing. So, it's about how you're gonna handle it now.
To see lounges are incredible.
Yeah.
The whole movement of the whole.
Consumption lounges and enjoying.
It's fun,
But before we have a Jerome Baker bong. I don't know if you noticed when you first got here, but ever since the show, it's been on display and it's been a conversation topic. Can we get that just to see it up here? Yeah. No, actually the one on the back shelf, on that back counter back there. That's the one that will light up while we talk, because I definitely want to try it and use it while we're talking. Yeah, cool. That's the one. Yeah. And we've had a couple guests that came in. I gifted them one of mine actually from the award show. I was like, cool. Hey, I actually want you to have this one. Cool. Take a piece of history, because Mr. Chong gave an additional story to us because he was at our booth for a while. So it was cool to learn about it, and then now to meet you in person is really, really cool.
Tommy's great, man. He has a lot of just really visionary ideas right now, and a lot of celebrities that promote cannabis do it in such a small way, and such a hush-hush way, where Tommy's full throttle. There's very few celebrities like him that really have dedicated, especially in these years, to the real full final push of legalization. So yeah, stoked to see him out there. Yeah,
what's the name of this baby? Like, what was the inspiration of this one?
This
do
we
you
call
recall
it
this one?
keiki. You know, it means baby in Hawaiian.
Okay.
And so that's the little piece of our line, and it's kind of the staple, man. A lot of that's what most people use. That's what we make most of. You know, and it's kind of like it can take a little bit of a beating. And again, going back to the wand shop principle, where each
I was just gonna say that.
each one kind of appeals to someone different. Some
With
might
our
have starfish,
post-grown
some might have, you know, pentagrams. You never know what's on these things, and so that's why there's a big selection. I recommend that if you do want pieces, you can always call into the studio and ask what's available.
Or talk, Jordan right here.
Yeah, Jordan's right here. He controls the back end over there. So, you know, a lot of different stuff comes out. Sometimes
I'll make sure we put his info at the bottom too for the people that are interested. I'll put your website, all of that. And when we close, I'll get into it as well.
Absolutely.
But inspiration, right? As creatives, I find inspiration through nothing. I find inspiration through everything that has nothing to do with what I'm doing, right? I go to the exact opposite. What's your source of inspiration when you create these? Is it you want to make an impact? Is it I'm sharing with them what's in me? Like, this is what I'm offering to creation? Or what's your place of inspiration?
My place of inspiration is creation. So the more artwork we can make, the more you know, I think that you know that's where I want to go, is make as much as we can while we have the opportunity to make it. So it's get as many pieces out there as we can. You know, it's infecting the masses. It's creating, you know, more speed with our legalization process.
Cheers to that.
So, you know, that's kind of the overall there.
And you got to keep us coming to work.
Right, for sure. But I mean, I know I look forward to, you know, what you guys have going on. I would love to see if Fohse can get, you know, some of our team or an exclusive private event down to the gallery, you know, where you can come and talk. And
that's how you hit that.
Yeah.
That's
That's how you hit that. That's how you do that.
That's how you
I don't want to choke on camera, so I will do that after this is over. But obviously, we see the future of our industry because it's a part of our name, right? The future of horticulture, science, and engineering. You know the future. Obviously, creation is your inspiration. What's one last thing that you would leave those that are in glass blowing or those that are looking to be inspired to enter into glass blowing?
So, I mean, you know, it's like anything, man. You know, if I look back in life, I would have probably rather learned the guitar and been a rock star.
Really?
Yeah, but I didn't have the balls when I was a kid to really pick it up and practice it. I didn't think I could do it.
You have the hair.
Yeah.
So the difference between a glass blower and a rock star, the rock star don't think he's a glass blower.
Right.
So, you know, it just the motivation here is, wow, when I made my first pipe and I got it done and I looked at it, I'm like, wow, you know, I did that. And then when we start making sales and we make a sale of a big ringer sale that we can finance, you know, our next project with or something like that, these are things that makes you realize, yeah, I can do it. And so I think that, you know, it could be like anything you're doing, whether you're producing this show and you come out with some cool masterpiece, all edited, all trick, and you guys are smoking and you're like, we made that shit. That's what
happens sometimes.
That's what I recommend that young people remember or take my, learn from my mistakes, and we should all learn from each other's mistakes and wins. And say, I could do this. And at 16 years old, you can go to a glass blowing school, or even look up local glass blowers, or even go hang out at your local university glass blower and watch them. And at retirement age, at 75 years old, you can pick it up and learn it and make it in your house, and it's going to be a meditation for you. Anybody can do this. This is just like playing a guitar. You just got to put your fingers on the scale, practice strumming, practice.
Well, you need some gloves. You got to be a little
passionate.
You got to be a little passionate.
You gotta want it.
Yeah, of course.
You gotta want it. You gotta want it.
Like
But I've been, you know, through my life, I've taught hundreds, if not over 1,000 people how to blow glass. Wow. And, you know, people with head injuries that can't function in real life can blow glass. People that were in wheelchairs, they can blow glass. And people, you know, that are at a retirement age, it gives them something all of a sudden to wake up for and actually be creating again. And so this is a really cool meditation for all. You have to want it. It hurts. Yeah. It's not an easy thing. I got permanent scars for life.
Right.
But that's part of it. And so, you know, that's what I would recommend is just get in there and try it. because it's what they call the glass bug. Once it bites, it doesn't let go, and you can do glass for life. There's tons of hobbyists and artists, and like I said, the tribe, and there's all kinds of different societies and associations and everything else for glass blowing.
It's making me wonder, though. I wish I would have asked this earlier to kind of kick the episode off. Take me to a regular day when you walk into the studio and you're getting your materials ready. How does this happen? Like, if you have an abbreviated version, what's the usual day of creating something? Like, what's the name of our red buddy here?
That's Fat Freddy's cat.
Fat Freddy's cat. What does it take to create Fat Freddy's cat?
Yeah, that's going to take a week of preparation of actually mixing color up. You might have cadmium chemicals to mix with borosilicate glass to make that color, and then put the color onto the tubing. It gets, that particular piece is beyond crazy. That's like a $10,000 dab rig, and that we made for the fabulous furry Freak Brothers TV show.
Really?
Look at the
that's out on
details.
Fox.
And it's heavy
The
too.
fingers and
It's just
detailed.
Super fun piece.
Yeah.
The details
just
are impressive
wild.
with these. Between the Krusty the Clown and the fingers, you mentioned that they're turning back.
In terms of how do we make pieces and how do we really make a shui, we've developed it over 30 years. And I figure what we do is really almost like Henry Ford style production. We run a piece from one end to the other end, and all hands in our team are involved in the piece. So we might have one person do a top, one person do a ball, one person do a back. And that's how we kind of flow with things. We mix them up kind of like a basketball team. You might have
Keeps it
different,
creative too, because
it
everyone's
keeps it
able
creative,
to.
and we we let them flow. If they're feeling one mood, they're gonna make dark stuff. If they're feeling another mood, they're gonna make light stuff. If it goes too far in one direction, Jordy steps in
I was gonna say,
and
do you
starts
give any
saying, "Cut the
direction?"
shit. We don't need two more. We don't need any more hearts, man, or we don't need any more pentagrams, man. Cut it out."
What directions do you give them? Obviously, you tell them what you want or what you want to create, but do you give them a limit before he sticks?
Yeah,
before
we
he
have a
jumps in, or-
staple on the line where
Okay.
we have 3 pieces basically that we do right now. We just have limited production going on, and then beyond that, we take custom orders.
Okay.
So for you guys, for other big companies in cannabis, we do a certain limited run of pieces with your logos on them in some way, shape, or form. And then other people might call in, and usually it's they want to get a custom piece for such and such with such and such team on there, or engraving, or this and that. All that stuff starts at $1,000 and goes up.
Got it. Okay.
So we do a $1,000 consultation, and then we figure out how much more it's going to cost, if anything, and then we make the custom piece according to specs. That's a big deal. We're going to kind of parlay that after the holidays here, where we can make some different, like we can do one color top and one color bottom and get it done for a bit cheaper, so it gets more pieces into people's hands. But we're not really trying to race to the bottom to make the shittiest, smallest, cheapest pieces we can, to make the smallest margins. We're trying to make really cool stuff, and in order to do that, I got to keep the guys making cool shit. I can't have them make shitty shit. You know what I mean?
It'll stack up over time, and it's like, how do we get this? We can't move these anywhere. Like, 'cause you can't sell
right,
it.
Right. We learn this game over life, and so I figure take advantage of what we have, take advantage of the equipment we have, the professionals that we have making the stuff, and try to have them make the best stuff possible right now.
quality.
Yeah.
Right. As you said the other day, Taylor, quality over quantity.
Quality sees quality.
As a female, what's been your experience with cannabis paraphernalia?
Well,
Actually,
I've always loved bongs,
Yeah.
right? Like I love bubblers, and I always had at least one of these
Right.
in the closet.
Yeah.
Not exactly this one, but I do now.
yeah, right. We got a couple handy dandies now.
I do now. But just to see all the products that are available, to make sure you have a safe medication,
Yeah.
that you have access to that. You have access to being able to medicate properly is the biggest thing.
And still fun. Like it makes, because again, like people that have diabetes, and you see how many variations they have of you being able to check your glucose. Now it's not the stab, it's the convenient point of a finger, because people type. So they're finding ways to advance their offering, not just the industry, but I think you advance the industry by advancing your product and making it as foolproof as possible, right? We've learned I wouldn't say the hard way, we've learned the great way, because we have it all in house. We have engineering, our lighting team, our everything's here, as you guys have, and I think it shows the value of the work that goes into the product, because everyone has a hand in getting it done.
Yeah, if you want to
buy
peel
once,
it,
that's it.
If you want to
get
peel
quality.
it, like first of all, for the women, there's there's a certain, femininity that we have to put into the piece to get them to bite.
Yeah.
And so we've just done, I see you have some Blazy Susans here.
Yeah.
We just did a project with Blazy Susan. We made him 300 pink
Shout out to
bongs.
Will.
What up, Will? Big ups, man. And so we did a collab with them. We did 300 pink bongs. Some of them are translucent. Some of them are bubblegum. Super fun. All girly.
Wow.
We had a great time making them. It was the first time we've done opaque bongs like that. And so it was a great run. And in terms of the industry itself in this glass and where you're going to buy it, you're going to go to these smoke shops now. And the majority of them that we've traditionally sold through over these 30 years don't sell much glass anymore.
Nope.
They sell a lot of imported stuff. They have it as fluff, and they're selling vape pens. Like you say, it's an easier, more technological industry. Guys nowadays can go, or girls nowadays can go, and they can get a pen and no lighter, and they put it back in the car and go to work, and
I
nobody
love
knows
this
what's
for
up.
being at home,
Nobody knows
chilling with
what's
the
up.
girls.
The bong
like,
is
having a glass of
obnoxious.
wine.
Right.
The
Yeah.
bong is this big obnoxious thing.
Right.
But again,
But then as soon as they see it, they're like, "Oh, here he goes with this thing." You're carrying like a trophy.
Yeah. And so
still rip
what
it.
we understand is the value of the brand representing the bong.
Yeah.
You can wear it on a shirt.
Yeah.
You can have it on something and have that kind of representation of it, and understand that that's what we're talking about is cannabis without actually saying cannabis or doing pictures of weed all over the thing. So, that's something that we've related it to, and we've understood now the difference of the where we're selling product, whether it's in the dispensaries or whether it's in the smoke shops, or whether now we have a huge vignette right now at Fred Siegel on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood.
Nice.
So for me, that's the pinnacle of coolness is having bongs in Fred Siegel.
That's far from
Big
Fred
ups
Siegel.
Fred Siegel, right on,
that's
guys.
impressive.
Make
Yeah.
sure if you're in LA, you stop in the Hollywood store in Sunset, and then we have also a little collection next to Nobu in Malibu at the Fred Siegel.
Those are prime locations.
Prime
too.
locations, and we're going to do a little bit more of a holiday vignette in there. We're working with some really interesting items to put in there along with the bongs to create this culture vibe, which we think that is like in cannabis. Like I said, we're not selling iPhones.
Yep.
We need to make sure that we represent, and there's a swath. We have to be inclusive. That's the one thing, bro, is that we're all sitting here, all different types of people.
True.
The one connection is the cannabis.
Absolutely.
It's the wildest shit ever, and it's
always-
what we need as Americans is this unifying fucking thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This could be our big moment. Is if when it legalizes, boom. Imagine if Russia legalizes, or if Israel.
they're all
you know what I
coming.
mean? If
Morocco's
some of these
right
places,
there.
like
Like
it can
Malta.
solve world peace. It's like fuck the shit. You know what I mean?
We had Jaden Ray. She is she's a psychedelic expert.
Yeah.
Without going into detail, hopefully you guys get to check that out this season. I will put the details in our caption and in the description. But she spoke about, her and I asked her, I said, how do you think the world would be should everyone have had access to quality medicine? If we're speaking of mushrooms, if we're speaking of cannabis, and that just piggybacks on what you said, people would be happier, more creative, more inspired. It would be a totally different world.
Yeah.
It would
Big
activate
Pharma wouldn't
something.
like it.
One thing,
of course they would like it.
One
but
recent anomaly that I saw in my world was I was in Germany this summer, and one of the guys with me had paperwork from the government that allowed him to drive while high. Now, how he got this paperwork was he did a test where he had to go smoke all day and do the obstacle courses, and then at nighttime driving, he had to do the obstacle courses,
day
and then
for
they
me.
signed him off. And I
It's all
said,
about the everyday
wouldn't that
average.
be a great, like if somebody, a big company sponsored these tests,
Yes.
and we had some celebrities do the tests and
Absolutely.
film this thing. I
Absolutely.
mean, what a cool thing.
Sign us
Stick
up.
them out in the
That's
parking
what we
lot,
want.
put a
Sign
bunch
us
of
up.
cones out there, get some whistles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay,
We
John.
got a little
1, 2,
fun
3.
with this.
We got a big parking lot across the
You
street,
know,
so it sounds
it'd
pretty
be a lot of
tempting.
fun.
Don't
But it's an
tempt us.
anomaly
Yeah.
that stuck out to me like it's one of those little slices, like what
Yeah.
Biden did the other day with giving these 6,500 people leniency on their pardons or whatever he just gave them. That's a start. It's nothing like you can't turn the ship on one move.
Yeah.
It was a start to pushing a little lever to what I think is going to be decriminalization or declassification of marijuana. It's fucking up there with heroin and LSD.
Right.
They got to get that out of there to create banking, and I think that's just one of the levers.
Right.
And I think all these little things are little bubbles that are popping that are helping this whole thing release.
Yeah.
And let's look forward to that. That's going to change this.
For sure. I mean, we're looking forward to, of course, because we service clients all across the globe. I mean, the more that legalizations happen, the more that folks can help people really achieve their goals. You know,
Yeah.
and I think for us, that's our biggest mission and our vision. Our mission and our vision statement are pretty similar. Obviously, we see the future and we know what it's going to be, but we know what the future is because we plan to be that by providing solutions that people can grab a hold to, whether that's relationships like this, whether that's getting conversations going to open people's mind and expand their minds on the industry and what we offer. Because although it is cannabis, we still have agriculture, leafy greens, tomatoes, flowers. Thinking about climate change, you know, what's happening now that seasons are longer, now what's happening to produce.
Yeah.
This is going to be a bigger conversation and a larger conversation without even mentioning cannabis because, I mean, look at the weather now. It just started getting cold here in Vegas and it's like 60s, 70s. And
Sustainable farming.
Yeah, sustainable farming. You know, that's going to be key.
Water, 95%.
Water
as compared
safe.
to
Yeah.
regular farming.
There's a friend of mine on Maui. I go back and forth between here and Maui. That's my kind of home base. And he's called
Take us with you, by the
Maui
way.
Mike's.
Take us with you.
CBD Farms.
Nice.
He has 3 humongous grows, and he spent a lot of money with you guys
Yeah. Yep.
and laced them up with your lights. Because
pay a visit.
I had brought my friend over there from Forever Flowering Greenhouses, Jonathan.
Yes.
What a really cool individual he is, and he was the first one to do the light depth greenhouses and all this, and so we really got plugged in with your lights over there and can see, you know, how it works in that tropical environment, which is not easy.
No.
You know, that's super hard growing up there, and they're doing a really good job. So, and anybody who travels to Hawaii, highly recommend you look up Maui Mike's on Instagram. They have a 7-acre kind of resort world kind of a thing going on by the beach. They
We may have to pay them a
cannabis
visit.
smoking,
Yeah.
and would love to go have you guys over there to do an event at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
It's got all the little restaurants and Buddha statues everywhere, and
I already
it's
bought
really,
my plane ticket.
Yeah.
So.
Right. We're actually already there. Our bags are packed.
Ben, we're gonna need a group ticket thing here.
Right, we're gonna get that done. Dana, I'm gonna give you a call. She's a great travel agent, by the way. I'll make sure I get that for you. Charter jets, everything. She gets it done. Gotta do the plugs with the right people, right? But overall, man, just want to say thank you for coming and giving us some of your life story. You know, you brought Jordan with you. You
Yep.
know, obviously he represents a great family and he contributes to your brand as well.
Yep.
And I think one thing to take away from this episode, quality.
Great.
And the one thing to take away from this episode that I would say is for everyone to follow that dream or whatever that initial thought is, for you to go and do what you're supposed to do. Because had you not been inspired by Bob, we wouldn't be dealing with you today. We wouldn't be speaking with you, and we wouldn't have your art that you've offered to the world. So,
Sure, and
you know,
be
we appreciate
persistent,
that.
man.
Yeah.
You know, even though that we got arrested and everything's down and out,
Yeah.
you
It's all
got to
part of the
keep
story.
scratching, man. You know, and now we're really excited to be in the space and we're one of a Merida portfolio company, which is a publicly traded company. They also own Leafly and a lot of the bigger places in the space, and we're really proud to be part of their group. You know, anybody who has, you know, questions on any of this stuff can always, you know, chime in and we'll try to answer as much as possible.
We appreciate it, Taylor. You have anything? I mean, this is good,
I
right?
learned so much.
I know, right?
I
And
was
you
already so
mentioned
interested
Hawaii.
in it, and
Cool.
yeah, really inspired, and I love your work.
Cool. Thanks.
We
Appreciate
know
you guys.
We'll have you back again very, very soon. We look forward to hosting some type of an event in the gallery, or even just bringing a part of the team
Yeah.
to come and get some content to support what you're doing, because we really, really
Yeah, we'd love to have you to be part of the media day that we have over
sure.
there for MJ
Absolutely.
BizCon.
We would love to. For those that are looking to learn more about Jerome Baker, Mr. Jason Harris, and Mr. Jordan, where can they find you on social media, website? You got the domain still, right? The JeromeBaker.com.
Yeah, you're going to go to JeromeBaker.com. It's going to give you a direct link to the Operation Pipe Dreamers right now. It's going to show you what we have available in the studio, and it's also going to have a phone number on there, and that's to our back end, and her name's Jen. And Jen answers the phone over there and can kind of walk you through FaceTime. What we have in the gallery. We also do a live feed every day on Instagram. So we have friends and family that get on there and talk about the product or use the product in different ways. And it's something fun to chime into. And they also will FaceTime you and get tapped in and give you the good bra deals.
Good. We definitely will do so. As you see, we have our dab bar that we're currently developing in the back.
I love it.
We look forward to having you again. I know our execs are out. Some of them are traveling and have a lot of business going on, but everyone sends their regards.
Thank God, man.
Yeah,
Sell them
right.
lights.
I know,
Sell
right?
them lights.
Listen, it's
Let's
coming
keep
at the
this
end of
world
the
team
year.
finance, baby.
Listen, it's
Get
coming to
back
the
on
end
the
of the
road.
year. It's Q4. We look forward to hitting the road. We will be at some upcoming trade shows. I don't know when you guys will view this, but if you do catch this in time, make sure you stop by booth 657 at MJ Biz, which is in November. 627. Sorry about that. Shout out to Hannah, our production assistant. That's why you need assistance. But it is booth 627 for MJ Biz. Do you know your booth number at all?
We're going to be doing a raging party at the new Todd English / Marriott Hotel in the Arts District of Las Vegas. You're going to be able to come down to the hotel, and we're doing a party with Flower Hire.
Okay.
And I'm going to have you guys out for sure. And you can also walk to our space. It's a half a block away. And see some live glass blowing demonstrations the same evening. So
let's do that.
We get creative at these things. We're a small fish in a giant sea at that kind of a trade show. So we come out with our real impact and really, you know, try to throw something memorable that people get a good takeaway with, because we're not, you know, inside the show there. So stoked to be part of the whole community, and stoked to have you guys over to the studio. Anybody can stop by anytime at the Dream Factory.
Address?
It's over at 721 South 1st Street. Okay. And again, you can hit us on Instagram, make an appointment. If you have a lot of people come in for special events, their birthday, their anniversary, blah, 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 and pick up their custom work that they've ordered ahead of time.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
Right on, guys.
All right. Enjoy, Jason. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much, guys.
Right on.
All right, guys. That's all for this episode of Welcome to the Future. We will catch you next episode. Again, tune in this season. We have a lot of great people. We have Lindsay Renner of Native Humboldt Farms. We have Jason Washington of Culture. Yeah, she was actually one of the recipients.
Lindsay
she's
is
great.
so cool.
She's really
she's
great.
one of definitely the big hustlers up there in Humboldt.
For sure. Yeah, she's doing her thing. Having her here and learning about her history and her culture and how she's, really killing it is crazy.
Yeah.
It was a great episode.
Yeah.
We have Lindsay Renner. We have, again, Jason Washington of Culture. We have Jake Ellenberger, who's former UFC fighter. We have Jaden Ray. It's some good stuff going down this season. And Mr. Jason Harris is just a preview of what we have going on. But if it's a preview, you know you're in for a great treat. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. It's been real. Peace out.
Thank you.
Right on. Aloha.